You smile a little at Donnie as you watched him. He was showing you how to create retro mutagen. Recently, of course, since you were always in the lair anyways. You figure you might as well be helpful. Master Splinter wouldn't teach you how to be a ninja because you were not ready, according to him. So you had to convince the purple-clad turtle to show you how to make retro mutagens so that while they were out battling bad guys, you could work on the retro mutagen and help out with his mechanics. After spending a lot of time with the turtles, you had started to develop a little crush on Donnie. Yeah, you knew he was the worst to have a crush on because he was madly in love with April, but you couldn't help it. He was smart, and he was really a sweet turtle. How could you not like him? Plus, the way he had gotten worried about you when you said you could make the retro mutagen made you smile. He was worried you were going to accidentally get mutated. Of course, at the same time, it kind of annoyed you that he thought you couldn't handle it. But hey, you couldn't have everything, right? So that's all you do, you ask as you watched him work. All I do? Your name. It takes months to make this, Donnie says, sounding a little upset with you. I didn't mean it that way, Donnie. You know that. I just meant that it was all you have to do until you wait. You explain as best you could. Well, that's what you do, Donnie replies, and then he looks at you a bit nervously. Your name? I still don't think this is a good idea, you working with mutagen, he says, his eyes looking at you nervously. I'll be fine, Donnie. I will be extra careful. You promise as you look at him and smile, hoping to reassure him. Now go find April. I think she was looking for you earlier. Something about her dad. You say, feeling a little sad the way he lifted up at the mention of April. If she ever needed help, he would jump at the chance to be her knight in a purple mask. You'd be lying if you said that it didn't make you a bit upset. April was looking for me? Donnie asked, clearly excited. You nod and tell him where she was before you began to work on the retro mutagen a little longer. And then you decided to go hang out with Raph for a while. You needed to let out some steam and get away from the mutant before you poured it on yourself in a moment of poor judgment. When you found Raph, he was exactly where you knew he would be. Raph, mind if I join you? You asked as you walked to grab a bow staff. Donnie had been teaching you how to use one. Well, when April wasn't around. Sure, he says as he turns to face you. Donnie went after April again, he asked as he looked at you. You nod a little. Yeah, she said something about her dad and Donnie and told me to tell him if I saw him. You see, Raph knew about your crush on Donnie. It was as obvious as Donnie's feelings for April, but Raph was smarter than most people gave him credit for. He figured it out and had been helping in his own little way, for one. He was there when you needed to let out some steam. Of course, you had always lost when you were sparred with the red-clad turtle, but still, it made you feel better that you could at least last a little longer than expected of you. You shouldn't have told him, Ralph says as he pins you down almost instantly. You had been sidetracked. I didn't want him to be mad at me if he found out that she wanted him and I didn't tell him. You respond as you manage to flip him and you set him on his plastron, straddling him with a bow staff caught in his sides. Pressing down and towards his neck, it didn't last long. Well then, you're an idiot too, Raph says as he pushes you off of him and stands to his feet. You twist so that way you roll off and then jump to your feet. You and Raph spar for a little while until managing to pin him and get rid of one of his sides. I get that, you mumble as you look at him. Raph moves quickly and pins you down completely, and you knew you lost. His size had your small wrist pinned, without hurting them, of course, and he straddles you. Honestly, if someone walked in right now, they'd think less of you two training and more like you two flirting, which was what Raph wanted. Just then, Donnie walked in to get Raph to say that they were leaving to go help April. When Donnie saw you underneath Raph, he got mad, and he didn't know why. Why did the fact that you and Raph weren't training room like that upset him. It was worse than how he felt with April with his brothers. Ref, come on. We have to go help. April, stop messing around with your name. This is important. He said, sounding more upset and angry than anyone had ever heard the purple-masked turtle. Raph winks at you subtly, and you blush a bit as he gets off of you and then helps you up. Calm down, Donnie. I was just showing your name. Training can be fun. Right, your name? Raph replies, and he looks at you. You blush a little before you nod, only adding to Donnie's anger, though you were blushing more than because Donnie was in the room, more than because of what Raph said. Thanks for sparring with me, Raph. See you when you get back, Donnie. You say a little quietly as you walk out of the dojo and then go back to Donnie's lab to mess around with some random objects that you found around the place. With you gone, Donnie glared at Raph. What are you doing with your name, Raph? He growls at his brothers. The turtle with the temper smiled a bit and shrugged. We were just sparring, Donnie. There's no need to worry about it. Now is there? You're chasing after April. I might as well have a bit of fun with your name. She doesn't seem to mind, he says, just trying to test his brother's patience. For once, he was glad that he was the one in control of his temper, and collected Donnie was not. You can't just play with your name's feelings, Raph. She's a sweet girl, and she deserves better than a mutant turtle who has a temper and doesn't care about her safety. Donnie replies angrily as they walk back into the main room where everyone else except Splinter and you were at. Raph, Donnie, what's going on? Leo asked as he looks at Donnie's angry face and Raph's smug one. Everyone knew you had a crush on Donnie, except for Donnie himself. Even April knew. She found out when you got upset with her for leading Donnie on. Mikey found out because you chose to hang out with Donnie instead of going skateboarding with him, and he realized why you would blush about Donnie, and Leo knew because Leo is good at telling things like this. Nothing. Everything is all good, Raph said with a smirk, and automatically everyone had a bit of an idea what had happened, as they rolled their eyes at Raph's words and Donnie's cluelessness. All right, let's go then, Leo says. The turtles and April leave the lair to go find out about April's dad. When they came back, Donnie looked really beat up. Leo looked exhausted, Raph looked annoyed, April looked disappointed, and Mikey looked like Mikey. You look up from the couch. Oh, hey guys, back all. Donnie, are you okay? You jump up when you see Donnie and rush over to him. All of the others looked at you and you blushed a little, but you ignored them as you focused on the intelligent turtle. I'm alright, your name, he groaned out. You look at Leo. What happened? You ask. He explains as they had run in with the Krang, and Donnie had been so lost in thought he got pretty banged up. Everyone except you understood why he was so lost in thought, and that's why Raph was annoyed, because technically it had been his fault. Oh, he said softly and nodded, and they all wonder if you understood, but you didn't. I promise I didn't mess up the retro mutagen, Johnny, you assured him, and he sighs as well as the others. Sometimes you were too clueless. You took care of Donnie while the others left to do their own little things. You had gotten him into his room, and you stayed with him while you took care of him. You have to be more careful, you chimmed him gently as you looked at him. Your name, why were you pinned under Raph? Donnie asked, and you wondered why he cared so much about it. We were sparring and he pinned me down like always, you replied honestly as you gently dabbed his cuts with a wet rag. And that's it? You weren't doing, anything else? He asked, clearly looking upset about this. Was that what was bothering you when you left? You asked, confused as to why he would care. It didn't make sense, though April was a bit upset with him because if he hadn't been so lost in thought, they would have gotten her dad back. Donnie blushed a little in embarrassment, but he didn't deny it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I didn't like it, he admits as his eyes meet yours. You roll your eyes slightly as you look down at Donnie. Since his bed was so small, you were straddling his plastron and cleaning his cuts. Oh yes, because I totally have a crush on Raphael, the one turtle with a massive temper and no regard to people's feelings. You reply sarcastically. But if you don't like Raph, then why didn't you push him off of you? Donnie asked. Because we were just sparring and he literally pinned me down like 3 seconds before he walked into the dojo, Donnie. What does it matter to you anyways? All you think, eat, and breathe is April. April this and April that. You reply. That's not true, Donnie protested, and you rolled your eyes. It is so true. You don't even realize what is right on top of you because of April. It's always about being April's hero and hanging out with April. And April this and April that. You say as you look at Donnie, hurt in your eyes. That's when you realized everything. You liked him. And every time he ever hung out with you, he brought up April, and maybe you could help him hang out with April, or does April ever talk about him? He felt like a massive jerk. His large green hand reaches up to caress your face gently, and you nuzzle against it automatically. Donnie's eyes widened a little at the reaction, but then they went soft. Your name. I had no idea. He trailed off, not knowing what to say. No, you didn't, and you weren't supposed to, you replied as you looked at Donnie, and then closed your eyes and sighed a little. Your name, Donnie began, looking at you gently. He sat up more, causing you to slide down onto his lap. His hand tilted your face up to look at him, and the gap between his teeth when he spoke. Why didn't you tell me? He asked as he looks at you. I'm not the oh-so-great April O'Neil. I'm not important to you. You reply with a small shrug of your shoulders. Donnie's eyes widen at your words. Did you really think that you were not important to him? Then you realized it must have been easy for you to think that because of the way he always went on to say April, no matter what Leo's instructions were. Don't ever think you're not important to me, your name, he said softly. He was still trying to get over the fact that a human girl like you actually liked a mutant turtle like him. You mean a lot to me, your name, he says as he leans his head down and kisses your cheek. You blush and smile a tiny bit as you look at Donnie. Really? You ask, clearly getting happy and excited. When Donnie nods his head, you smile brightly and wrap your arms around his neck, leaning forward, so suddenly that Donnie fell back on the bed, his arms immediately wrapping around your smaller body to keep you from falling. You press a shy kiss to his lips and blush even more, causing Donnie to blush too. Really, your name, he replies sincerely, and he looks up at you, looking into your bright eyes that were shining with joy. You hung out with him while he was resting and ending up falling asleep in his arms. Just you and him.